Hello! This video is about surds, and I'm going to assume that you've already learned about surds at school and just need a refresher. So what is a surd? Well, it's a number that cannot be written as a whole number or a fraction. It's an irrational number. That means if you write it as a decimal, it would go on forever. I guess the most famous surd is root 2, the square root of 2. And the square root of 2, if you did write it out as a decimal, would look a bit like this. The number square root of 4 is not a surd because we can work out that exactly. The square root of 4 is 2. So root 4 is not a surd. Surds can be written using the root or the radical sign like root 2 or 3 root 3. Where the root 3 is the irrational bit and the 3 in front of the sign is called the coefficient. Now, there are certain rules that you can apply to arithmetic with surds. You can multiply them together. For example, root 2 times root 3 is equal to root 6. But you couldn't add surds together in the same way. I really think it's probably best if we have a look at some examples. So we're going to go to the online exercise. I'm going to go through lots of questions and show you the answers. If you pause the video after you've seen the question, see if you can find out the answer by yourself, or otherwise play the video and see how I work it out. So this is level 1. All we have to do is simplify these numbers written in square root signs. So let's have a look at the first one. The square root of 9. I know that. That's 3. So I don't need any calculation to type in 3 here. Now, as you're going through the questions, click on the check button as often as you like to make sure you're getting the answers right. If you get the answer wrong, like this, you can simply just change your mind and have another go. So we have got root 18, the square root of 18. Well, as we saw before, 18 can be split up into 2 and 9. So I could write root 18 down like that, which is equal to the square root of 2 times the square root of 9. Well, I know the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 2, well, it's an irrational number, so I leave it like that. Leave it as a surd. So the square root of 18 can be more simply written down as 3 root 2. 3, click this button for the square root sign, and then a 2, and then check the answer. Yes, it's right. Let's try this one, the square root of 27. Well, that's equal to the square root. How can I make up 27? Well, it's 9 times 3. And as we saw before, we know what the square root of 9 is. It's 3. So it gives us 3 root 3. We could work out the square root of 3 if we had a calculator, but it would be an irrational number. It would be a decimal that went on forever. So let's leave it as it is. Okay, the answer is 3 root 3. 3 square root 3. Check. Yes, we've got it right. Okay, now they start to get a little bit more difficult. What about the square root of 74? Well, I know that if I split up 74 into its component factors, I may be able to spot a square number. So let's see, that's equal to the square root. Well, I can see that 74 is even, so I know that 2 is a factor. So that will be 2 times 37. And I know that 37 is a prime number. So I'm not going to get any more factors out of that. So really I can't simplify this at all. The square root of 2 times 37, well, nothing simplifies, so I need to leave it as the square root of 74. The square root of 74. So some of them can't be simplified. Watch out for that. Okay, let's have a look at the square root of 20. Well, I'll split up 20. This time I'll do it by its prime factors. It's 2 times 2 times 5. That's how you get 20. Well, now can you see, writing this in a different way, that this is equal to 2 squared times 5. So 2 squared gives 4, the square number. So I could bring that outside the square root sign. And if I find the square root of 4, it is of course 2. So it looks like the answer is 2 root 5. 2 times the square root, whoops, delete that, 2 times the square root of 5. Yeah, it's right. Okay, what about 24? Right, as I'm going through these, try and work them out yourself before I do them. You could pause the video, but you will have a chance to do this whole exercise after I've finished. So square root of 24 is equal to, well, if I write it down in its prime factors, it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. So I can see that is equal to a square number, which is what I'm looking for, 2 squared times 6. So I think bringing the 2 squared outside the square root sign will give me 2 root 6. Let's have a go. 2 square root of 6. Yeah, that's the simplest way. Okay, why don't you have a go yourself now? So complete these 12 questions. You can get a trophy if you get 9 or more of the questions right. Press the check button regularly, claim your trophy, and then come back to this video to have a look at level 2. So here's level 2. What we have to do is simplify these expressions. So for question number 1, we have root 6 times root 6. Well, if you multiply the root of a number by itself, you get back to the number you started with. So root 6 times root 6 is equal to 6. So let's see, I'll type that in there, press the check button. Yeah, I'm getting it right. So question 2 is root 10 times root 10. That must of course be equal to 10. I'm getting the pattern here. I don't need to do any working out for this next one. Now, what about root 5 times root 20? Right, let's think of ways we can write this differently. So root 5, now 20, because it's 4 times 5, and 4 is a square number, the square root of 4 is 2, so I can bring that outside the square root sign, and that just leaves 5 inside. So I've now got 5 times 2 root 5. Well, if I multiply the root 5 by the root 5, I will get 5, plus that factor of 2, that will give me 10 altogether. So the answer here is 10. Right, what about this one? Question number 5. Oh, and that was question number 4, wasn't it? So question number 5, root 4. Oh, well, straight away I know that's 2. The square root of 4 is 2 times... Oh, wait a minute. 36 is a square number as well. So the square root of 36 is 6. So 2 times 6 is 12. The answer here should be 12. Yes. Root 3 times root 48. Let's see. I know that 48 is 3 times 16. So for question number 6, I could write down this as root 3 times the square root, and I know that 48 is 16 times 3, which is equal to root 3 times the square root of 16. 16 is a square number, is 4. So it's 4 root 3. And now I can see that the root 3 times root 3 is going to give me 3, plus that factor of 4. So I shouldn't really say plus that factor of 4, I should say times that factor of 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. That's the answer that goes here, 12. So you have a go now. There are 12 questions altogether. If you get at least 9 questions correct, you can claim your virtual trophy. And then come back here for level 3. Level 3 starts off, question 1, with 7 root 7 multiplied by root 3. Now what we have to do is simplify this expression. Well, I don't think it's going to simplify very much. We could combine the two roots to make it 7 root 7 times 3, which is equal to 7 root 21. Let's see if that's the right answer. I'll type it in here. 7 root 21. Click the check button. Yes, it's correct. Okay, we're on a roll. Question number 2. 7 times root 12 times root 6. How are we going to combine these? Well, I have an idea that 12 is 2 times 6, and the 6 is the same as that second term there. So that might be helpful. Okay, now I could split this up as being 7 times root 2 times root 6 times root 6. And then I know that the 2 root 6's, if I multiply those two together, are going to give me 6. So multiply that 6 by the 7 at the front, which will give me 6 7s are 42 root 2. So I think this, in its most simple format, is 42 root 2. Yes, correct. Very good. Question 3. Root 4 times 3 root 3. Well, I can see straight away that 4 is a square number. So the square root of 4 is 2. So I've got 2 times 3 root 3, which is equal to 6 root 3. So the answer to number 3 is 6 root 3. Right, I don't want to ruin the fun by doing too many of these questions for you, so I'll let you have a go at level 3 and then come back here to see level 4. Right, level 4, question 1, and the question is, what is the square root of 2 plus the square root of 18? Oh, it's plus this time. Right, well, I can't combine those in the same way as I did when I multiplied. So let's see if I can write down root 18 in a different way. So we've got the root 2 plus root, and I think 9 times 2 is going to be the best way to write the 18 down. Can you see I've got a 2 in there, which is going to be useful in a moment. And I've also got a 9, which is a square number. So that's very helpful. So that's going to be root 2 plus the square root of 9 is 3 root 2. So we've got root 2 plus 3 root 2. It's like saying x plus 3x, which of course is altogether 4 root 2. Let's see if that's the right answer. Let's type this in. 4 square root of 2. Check. Yes, it is. Fantastic. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Number 2. Root 12 plus root 48. I can see some square numbers that are factors of these two numbers, 12 and 48. See if you can spot them before I do it. Otherwise, the root 12 can be written down as 4 times 3, the square root of 4 times 3. And then I'm going to add on the square root of, let's see, 48. If it had a factor of 3, that would be useful. Yes, it does. It's 16 times 3. So I've got some square numbers and some 3's. So that's equal to, the square root of 4 is 2, so the first term becomes 2 root 3. And the second term, because the square root of 16 is 4, is 4 root 3. And we're adding these together, so the answer is going to be altogether 6 root 3. Let's see if that's correct. 6 times the square root of 3. Check. Yes, that's right. Okay, I'll do one more. Number 3. The square root of 27 plus the square root of 75. Okay, let's see. I've got a factor of 3 in both of them. And in fact, when I take out a factor of 3 from those numbers, that leaves me with a square number in both cases. So this is equal to 9 times 3 plus the square root of 25 times 3. So you can see what we do next. We bring out the 9 because it's a square number, and that becomes 3 root 3. 25 is a square number, so the square root of that is 5, so that's 5 root 3. So altogether we've got 8 root 3. Let's see if that's right. 8 root 3. Yes. Okay, have a go at level 4 and then come back here for level 5. Here's level 5, and as you can see, they look as though they have been written as fractions or divisions. So let's see how we can simplify these. Question number 1, we've got root 18 over root 2, which is equal to, I'm used to simplifying root 18 because I know that it's 9 times 2. So I've got, bring the 9 in front of the square root sign, 3 root 2 over root 2. And now I can divide top and bottom of that fraction, the numerator and the denominator, by the square root of 2, and that just leaves me with 3. So I think the answer to the first question is just 3. But I'll check with the check button. Yes, it definitely is. Okay, the second one, question number 2, is root 12 over root 3, which can be written down as root 4 times 3. You can see the square number there and the 3 that I know is going to cancel, and the 3 on the bottom, so you can see it's 2 root 3 over root 3, which is equal to 2, in the same way that question 1 cancelled down. So let's see, question 2 is 2. Check. Yes, it's right. Okay, and then let's do question 3. The square root of 100. Oh, wow, straight away I know that's 10. Square root of 4, straight away I know that's 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Could these get any easier? There we go. Okay, I'm sure the rest of them won't be quite that easy, but now you've got the idea. Have a go at level 5 and then come back here for level 6. Right, for level 6 we've got some fractions and they look pretty simple already, but they would each look a lot simpler if they didn't have that irrational square root in the denominator. So what we do is we rationalise the denominator. That means make the denominator into a number that's not irrational. Now, how can we do this? Well, let's have a look. Question number 1. We've got 4 over root 2. Now if I multiply top and bottom of the fraction by the same thing, multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same factor, the value of the fraction remains unchanged. So what I can do is I can multiply, look at this trick here, multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. Now watch what happens. The denominator, if we're having root 2 multiplied by root 2, is just 2. Great, that's not irrational. And then at the top we've got 4 root 2. And then that can be simplified, dividing numerator and denominator by 2, which gives us an answer of 2 root 2. So 2 root 2 is a simpler way of expressing 4 over root 2. Let's see if I've got it right. 2, square root sign, 2, check. Yes, wonderful. Okay, question number 2. 6 over root 3. I can do the same procedure, multiplying top and bottom by root 3. Well, it's like multiplying it by a fraction of root 3 over root 3, which is 1. And if you multiply things by 1, their value stays the same. So this is going to give me 6 root 3 on the top of the fraction, and it's just going to give me 3 on the bottom of the fraction. Then I can divide top and bottom by 3, which gives me an answer of 2 root 3. So this answer should be 2 root 3. Let's check. Yes, correct. Okay, do I need to do this one? Or shall I maybe skip down to a more tricky one? Let's go to number 9. Okay, question number 9. We've got 20 root 5 on the top of the fraction and 5 root 2 on the bottom of the fraction. Now to make the denominator so it's not irrational is to multiply it by another root 2. So I'm going to multiply this by root 2. And then on the top of the fraction I've got 20 root 5 times root 2. And on the bottom of the fraction, root 2 times root 2 is 2, times 5 is 10. So can you see it's starting to simplify now? I have got 20 root 10 by combining those two square roots there, divided by 10. And now I can see that I can divide numerator and denominator by 10, and that's going to give me 2 root 10. So I think that's the simplest solution to question number 9, 2 root 10. 2 root 10. Let's have a go. Yes, correct. Okay, have a go at level 6, and then come back here for level 7. Okay, level 7, we have a mixture of all sorts of different questions. And again, we have to simplify each of the expressions. So I'll start off with number 1. There it is. So let's start off by rationalising the denominator of the first term. So I'll multiply numerator and denominator by the square root of 5. So I'll have 15 root 5 over 5. And then splitting up the 20 into a 4 times 5, and 4 is a square number, so that will give me 2 root 5. Now, simplifying that fraction, I've got 3 root 5 minus 2 root 5, which is just equal to the square root of 5. So the answer to the first question is just the square root of 5. So each of these is of a different type. A little bit of a problem solving here to do these, but I would like to go to question 10. because question 10 will prepare you for level 8. Question number 10 is root 13 plus 1 multiplied by root 13 minus 1. Now, the way I multiply two binomials together like this is I multiply the first term of both brackets, and then I multiply the second term of the first bracket by the first term of the second bracket, and then the first term of the first bracket by the second term of the second bracket, and then finally the one multiplication that I haven't done. And I call this my clown's face. Those are all the multiplications I need to do. Can you see it looks a bit like a face, a couple of eyebrows, a nose, a mouth? Okay, so let's start off with the left eyebrow as you look at it. Root 13 times root 13 is equal to 13. Now let's do the nose. 1 times root 13 is root 13. Now let's do the mouth. Minus 1 times root 13 is minus root 13. And now let's do the right eyebrow. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So this is equal to 13, and this is the interesting bit. The irrational surds here, they disappear. We've got plus root 13 minus root 13, so I've just got the minus 1 at the end. And that's equal to 12. Interesting result, just a whole number. Right, let's type that in, 12. Yes. Okay, what about question 11? Well, we've got root 16 plus 2, root 16 minus 2. I'll do the clown's face, and I'll see I get 16. Then I get plus root 16 and plus 2 root 16 and minus 2 root 16, so the irrational bit disappears, and I'm just left with minus 4. That's the 2 times 2. And that's equal to 12. Now, the fact that the answer is exactly the same as the last one is a bit of a coincidence, but let's try one more. Question number 12. Root 10 plus 3, root 10 minus 3, multiply them together. Root 10 times root 10 is 10, and then plus 3 root 10 minus 3 root 10, it disappears, and then minus 9. So we have got again a whole number. In fact, it's equal to 1 this time. So isn't that interesting that those last 3 questions have each just given us a whole number, a rational number with no irrational part? And you may recognize this format from algebra called the difference between two squares, the difference of two squares. Now this is very useful because it means that if you have something like, let's make up a really difficult one, 149 plus 23. If you've got an expression such as that and you multiply it by 149 minus 23, without doing the work, I already know that the answer is just going to be a whole number, a rational number. And we call this over here the conjugate surd. It's the expression that we multiply root 149 plus 23 by in order to make it rational. The conjugate surd is going to be very useful when we get to level 8. I'll see you at level 8. Okay, we're at level 8 finally of the online exercise. And before we start this, if you didn't do level 7, you should at least go back and look at the level 7 part of this video, because we looked at something called the conjugate surd. So look back at the level 7 part of the video, and when you understand this, then you can start with question number 1. We've got to simplify 3 over 7 minus root 2, and we've got to do it by first rationalising the denominator. That's what we're going to do. So rationalising the denominator means to make it into a rational number that doesn't include any irrational parts, any surds that can't be simplified. So from level 7 we learned that the conjugate surd of 7 minus root 2 would be 7 plus root 2. The opposite sign, but otherwise the numbers in the expression are the same. Now if we're multiplying the bottom of the fraction by 7 plus root 2, we must do the same to the top to keep the value of the fraction the same. Okay, now let's do the multiplying. 3 7s are 21 plus 3 root 2. And on the bottom, we know from level 7 that we're going to get 7 7s are 49 minus root 2 times root 2 is 2. So the answer here is going to be 21 plus 3 root 2 over 47. And that is how we have simplified, even though it looks more complicated, doesn't it really? But actually we've made it so that there is no irrational part in the denominator. So let's see if we've got this right. I type in 21 plus 3 square root of 2, and then I want to put all of that on top of the fraction as the numerator, so I hold down the shift key and the backspace to highlight it all, and then I press the / button to put the fraction line in, the vinculum, and then I'll type in the 47 on the bottom of the fraction and check. Yes, it's right. So question number 2, we've got 4 over 2 minus root 3. Multiply top and bottom by the conjugate surd, which is 2 plus root 3. So on the top of the fraction, I've got 8 plus 4 root 3. And on the bottom of the fraction, 2 squared is 4. Subtract root 3 times root 3, which is just 3. That's very nice. I've just got 1 on the bottom of the fraction, so that will just be 8 plus 4 root 3 as the answer to this question. Let's try it. 8 plus 4 root 3. And if I double click the check button, actually it just floats up here, so I don't have to keep going down looking for it. Yeah, it's right. Okay, let's have a look at question 3. We've got root 3 over root 2 plus 3, which, if we multiply this by the conjugate surd, which is root 2 minus 3, we're going to get root 3 times root 2 is root 6 minus 3 root 3. And then on the bottom, root 2 times root 2 is 2, plus 3 times minus 3 is minus 9. So that's going to give me root 6 minus 3 root 3 over minus 7. Now you may think that that is the simplest form, but it's not. If I multiply the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator, by -1, it's actually slightly simpler, because the terms on the top change their sign. So that root 6 becomes minus root 6, and that minus 3 root 3 becomes plus 3 root 3. So if I write it that way around and then the 7 there, that, I'm going to argue, is slightly simpler, because there's one less symbol if you count up the symbols that are used in both of those versions. So the one at the bottom is the simpler version. So that, I think, is going to be the correct answer. So I'll type it in, 3 root 3, and then I need to come out of the square root sign by pressing the right arrow, just to come out of the square root sign there, and then minus root 6, and then select all that by holding down Shift and the back arrow, then press the forward slash to get onto the bottom of the fraction, and then click check. Okay, now it's your turn to have a go at the online exercise. Don't forget to press the check button regularly as you're working through the questions to see if you're getting them right. And if you make a mistake, have another think and correct your answer, and then press that check button again. Don't forget to claim your trophy when you've got to the end. And there are lots more activities on the Transum website for you to have a go at to improve your mathematics, and you can claim hundreds of trophies. So, what are you waiting for? Get going! Bye.
You can find Transum Mathematics at www.transum.org, where you're welcome to use all of the activities absolutely free. Or jump in with both feet and become a Transum subscriber.